Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm great, Nick. Nice to see you.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you. You know, I talk with a lot of executives, and one thing I found that's really fascinating is that 4 or 5, 6 years ago, really never talked about mental health. What's changed that now that's such an important part of the conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Mental health concerns, they were increasing before COVID, but COVID totally disturbed everything that we knew about our normal lives. And that upheaval, we're still dealing with the aftermath of that. Everybody lost something during COVID. And as a result, we see that manifesting itself in the business place. And, you know, people are dealing with a lot of things: anxiety, isolation, depression, stress, things that they missed during COVID. And that doesn't stop at home. That comes to work. And so part and parcel with that also is that has to be addressed. But in many places, there are stigmas about mental health. For instance, about 30% of our workforce are veterans. I was in the military. In the military, there has been a long precedent of not talking about things like mental health. Just sort of, you got to get up and serve the mission, and it's not okay to not be okay. Also in the cleared community, you've been in this town for a long time. Security clearances are really important, and people are very careful about their security clearances. And there's this concern that if you have a mental health issue, that maybe you'll lose your clearance. The reality of that is 0.00015% of people that talk about the mental health issues that they have or disclose them have their clearance withdrawn. So actually, having a national security personnel that are mentally and physically at their best is an imperative for our national security. And the customers that adjudicate those clearances want people to come forth and deal with issues as they have them. So really, this last unprecedented few years has brought mental health to a crisis that is unprecedented.
Yeah. So as a business, I mean, it's sort of, maybe I think of it the wrong way, but, it's I guess you care, in part because it helps you be a successful company. Is that why GDIT cares?
Well, yes, we are a people business, Nick. First, some people make tanks, and some people make business jets, and some people make submarines. My business is people, 28,000 of them, and they are working on really important things for our customers. And so it is a business imperative for me to have employees that can come and bring their incredible talents to work every day. And retaining those employees, particularly if they're going through hard times, we want them to know, hey, we have resources for you, and get them through those hard times. And that is something that we've been very focused on. We have a program that we launched here called How Are You Really? Not, hey, Nick, how's it going? How are you? And sort of go off to get your cup of coffee without really staying to look you in the eyes and see, I really care about the answer there. And so that was our way of saying, we're going to talk about mental health at GDIT. It's okay to not be okay. And in addition to that, for the company, we felt like community was really important. That isolation that COVID brought, there was a social network and fabric in our communities that was broken as a part of COVID, and we want to start to knit that back together. So we have a number of employee resource groups and technical communities that we are encouraging to bring people together to talk about things, that whether they be issues du jour, or I guess 2 weekends ago, we were out at Dulles doing a plane pool to raise money for Special Olympics. All of those opportunities to build community and help bring people together is important, and the company has a role to play in that. The last thing I'll say for the business is we have to continue to evolve, and we have to meet our employees where they are. So we've really looked at the resources that we have too. It's one thing to say, okay, I see you. you're dealing with depression, or you're dealing with burnout, or your children haven't recovered from the educational difficulties, I see you. It's another thing to say, all right, I'm going to build community, but you also have to show them you have resources for them. And so we've really looked at our benefits package, and we've evolved our resources. For instance, we have access to online counseling now. If you don't have to get in your car, take time off from work, and drive to go talk to somebody, if that person is even available because they are overwhelmed given the dramatic increase that we're seeing in mental health issues right now, if you can talk to them at your desk, or at home or somewhere where you feel comfortable, that makes a real difference. Just being able to share the concerns that are on your mind, we find, really helps make sure that employees are at their best, and we see them using these resources, which is exactly what we hope for.
Yeah. I know from talking to you today and other times, you have a real passion for this topic. Can you talk a little bit about where that comes from, where the passion comes from?
Everybody's dealing with something, Nick, and GDIT is not immune to that. We had suicides during the pandemic. In fact, we had suicides over the summer. We're 28,000 people. It's going to happen. But I hear and see all the time employees talking about where they're at, and it is a real issue on the deck plates of this company and our society. And so as the president of this company, I see we have a role to play there, and making a difference in even the smallest of ways has a really powerful impact on the success of our customers, the success of the company, the success of our employees and their families. It's a family issue. So if I can use my platform to talk about mental health and the stigma around it and the fact that it's okay to not be okay, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So how has it changed the way you run the company? How has that evolution taken place? And then another part of that too is, it's one thing for you in the C-suite to talk about these things, but how does it get down into the rank and file?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, two pieces. On the first part, it has caused me to double down on the importance of empathy and compassion in leadership. I expect my leaders to hold people accountable, so we are a results-oriented company. But compassion and empathy and understanding what people are dealing with, it is a part of that success. It's not anathema to it. It is actually a part of driving the organization to be able to deliver. And I see manifestations of that all the time. I just got back from Fayetteville, North Carolina now, Fort Liberty. It used to be Fort Bragg. On the deck plate, seeing some of our employees down there. And every time I go someplace, including this week, I meet employees who say quietly, hey, thank you. Thanks for making it okay to talk about mental health. When I was down there, I saw a post on LinkedIn from an employee who said a year ago, this individual was 3 months into working at GDIT and experienced some suicidal thoughts, and she really wrangled with whether she could talk about that in a new job at a new place. But she had heard about this campaign and she brought it forth to her managers. And her manager leaned into that and said, we are here to help you. Here are the things, let me bring resources in. I don't know if that would have happened 2 years ago. And so when you see that it makes a difference, when you see that compassion and empathy is something that our leaders are bringing up, that is goodness. Now to your question about how do you drive this into the organization? We are calling 2023 the year of the people manager at GDIT. And that's why I think your question is so insightful, because leading people now is entirely different than it was before the pandemic. We have generational changes going on. What our customers need is different. Technology is moving at a pace that we've never seen before. We have different working postures. Our customers have different working postures. People are dealing with all these aftermaths of the pandemic. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so our people managers, when we see our employees leave GDIT, they leave their managers. They don't leave a company, they leave their managers. And that's not true just for GDIT, it's true for everywhere. And so we really saw that we needed to lean into our people managers. So they are all, 100% of them, over the next 2 years, going through an intensive training that we're providing them to talk about things like, how do you have these hard conversations? What are things that you should look for as a leader that might be indicative that somebody is struggling? We are also requiring career conversations this year. So 100% of all GDIT employees will have a career conversation this year. And that is meant to preserve time. It's hard to have those conversations. You lead people, I lead people. You have to make time for them. They can be difficult. They can be awkward. But they're meaningful. Hey, Nick, like, are you happy in your job? Are you getting what you need? What's going on in your life? How do you see yourself in 5 years? Those conversations are really important, not just to the development of folks, but to make sure that employees feel like, all right, this company with a soul, which is how I like to talk about GDIT, they do actually care about me.
So your people managers have those types of people, or do you see them changing, like the qualities they need and who might become a people manager versus who doesn't? Or?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I haven't explored the second question, but people are embracing this. Every time I see leaders in the company, they're saying, hey, thank you. And I had a Q&A session at a town hall when I was at Fort Liberty yesterday or the day before. And I said, raise your hand if you've had your career conversation this year. Raise your hand if you've been to this leadership experience as a leader. And people raise their hands, and I'm known to walk out into the audience and put people on the spot. And I said, hey, like, how was it? And at first he said, oh, it was fine. I was like, well, that's what you say about food you don't like. So, like, was it painful? Was it really painful? And he said, actually, it was really helpful. The career conversations that I had prior to that training were okay, but the career conversations that I had after that training were excellent. And that is how I know that it's taking root. It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time.
It's almost a version of what you were saying earlier about how are you really?
Yes.
Because you ask that person, how was it? Oh, it was fine. It's easy just to kind of skip on to the next person, but you have to train people, I guess, to kind of dig a little deeper beyond that.
Yeah, no, that when you push them, they will tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And in this case, I was happy to hear what I heard.
Yeah. So, Amy, I know you had a career in the military before you came to GDIT. Can you talk a little bit about that, what you learned there that maybe applies to this today?
Yeah, I'd say two things. So, one, I had the amazing privilege to lead very young Americans who were in their first jobs in life. And frankly, I was in one of my first leadership jobs. And you look into the eyes of those young Americans who really just want to serve their country. And you have to push them to tell you what's on their mind. And going to sea on a warship for a 6-month deployment and leaving home for the first time, there's a lot that goes into that. So that was my first recognition that people deal with really hard things that they're sometimes reluctant to deal with. The other thing that I witnessed, having served in the military for almost a decade, is that this stigma and this clearance issue, like, that's a real thing. And people are sometimes reluctant to talk about struggles that they have, and security clearances are precious items. And so the combination of the stigma and the combination of or the reluctance for people to be forthright about what they're dealing with, that is something that really resonated with me and influenced that focus on empathy and compassion and trying to meet people where they are. And for GDIT, having 30% of our workforce that are veterans and having 14,000 or more clearances, that becomes an issue for our population.
Yeah. With that many veterans, have you noticed, when you look at the different populations in the company, does that population embrace this, this approach more maybe than, someone fresh out of college coming to work at GDIT? Or
No, I think they all experience it differently. I wouldn't say that the veterans appreciate it more or embrace it more. Everybody is dealing with problems in different ways. And so I would say there's different triggers for different populations. And it is well understood that veterans have a higher mental health challenge or suicide rate than the rest of our society. So that's a real thing that's measured in statistics. But, our early career and younger generations are dealing with a lot too. Some of them were finishing school in COVID. So there's a lot. And so I'd say it's just different. But I don't see any one particular part of the population saying, hey, thank you, Amy. It's a younger employee, having just been in Fort Liberty. It is a special operations employee. Right. The email was from a mid-career, or the LinkedIn post that I mentioned was from a mid-career employee. So sort of canvasses the workforce, which doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's an issue that cuts across the board.
And that's why it is such a huge issue for our society that we have to get at.
Yeah. So what's on the horizon? What is 2023 was the year of the people manager. What's 2024 going to be?
It's such a good question. So for a company with a soul, mental health is never done. And I told the team here when I came back, I was on vacation when one of these suicides happened, and I came back and said that we're going to do something about this. We as a company are going to do, and this isn't going to be something that we're going to talk about in the month of September or in the year of 2021 or 2022. This is going to be an ongoing conversation, because this problem that we're seeing, this spike in mental health challenges, it's not going away. Right. It's going to take a long time to get past the pandemic. And even past the pandemic, there's a lot in our society that is pressuring people and challenging them to be their best selves. So I would say that we are going as a company to continue to lean into this topic because we need to, and we're a part of the solution. In terms of what is 2024, we've been talking about that inside the company. And you know what? We're not done. So I say 2023 is the year of the people manager. 2024 is the year of the people manager too. We're not done talking about this. And I think we need to acknowledge that it's going to take more time to really drive this into the bowels of GDIT. So it's going to be a focus for some time.
Yeah, well, great. Well, Amy, thank you very much.
Nick, it's always great to chat with you, and thanks for all you do for this industry.
Oh, thank you.